Why was it important to you both to have a creative consultant and a publishing team?
Well, I think the creative consultant is so we don't kill each other. No, all kidding aside. No, the reality is that I think I've learned over the years that diverse talent, if respected, adds more. One plus one it can become three if you get the right players involved. And you have to have a publishing team. The reality is we know nothing about the publishing process. Like, what's the size of the book? How does it work? What's the cover? How does this put together? And how do you get it on all the websites? And like, there's so much more to the process than write a book and put the pictures together. And there's no way, I mean, sure, we could learn that. It would take us years to figure it out. So I think it's more of a get the right players with the right expertise, bring them together, understand what their roles are, and play those roles. And I think Palmetto, at least for us, gave us, okay, this is your role, this is our role. It's very clear. At times you were looking at it going, well, why are they so rigorous? What is this about 2 revisions and 3 revisions? But if you read it carefully, it's really to protect the process so it doesn't go on forever, but it goes on the right amount of time, that the right level of rigor is put into it. Because like I did a lot of research on different publishing firms online and talked to a lot of world-class authors. And if you don't get the right marriage, you create a mess on your hands. Books that are published with errors in the wrong places and, et cetera. And it's not like we didn't make mistakes or people didn't make mistakes along the way. It happens. But if you get the right team and they're, and everybody's looking the same way, those mistakes can be corrected very rapidly and it gets better each stage of the way. So I think that was part of the rationale to pull it together the way we did.
Yeah. John, earlier you spoke about some of the technology behind the book. How did tools like AI or other technologies help during the process?
Well, I think it's important to understand. I have like 40 years in data and AI. I mean, I've worked for 2 of probably the world's leading industries and companies in AI, IBM and Microsoft. So it's not a space I'm not familiar with. And I'm always on the leading forefront of AI. But AI played a unique and important role in this process. I indicated like the cover of this book was human drawn. Like I had an inspiration and what I wanted it to look like, but I can't put pen to paper. Like I can barely spell my own name, let alone make a cover look like that. But I have an idea of what I want, and I make it come alive in photography, but not in drawings. So I used Microsoft's Copilot and DALL-E, which is a creative expertise, and a set of prompts to create what I wanted to look like. And then I handed it to a Palmetto creator who drew it. And then my creative lead, or our creative lead, Rich Feldman and Heather, who has a very good eye to it, they had comments and creative questions and approaches. I don't know what tools Palmetto uses to create it, but I know it was hand drawn. And so the whole cover started, I like to say, AI inspired. And then, of course, like some of the photography goes back 15 years, where, I thought I was a good photographer then. I am a much better photographer today. But I'm a much better photographer today because the tools give me the ability to do that. I've also had many, many more years of experience. So taking old photography and running it through the routines that would have taken months to do to get noise out of pictures, to simplify things, to add space in places that couldn't do it, to fix the color streams, etc., takes minutes with AI today, and Lightroom and Adobe and Photoshop, etc. Not to create new, but to fix and inspire and to make it fit today's formats. And so I think AI played an incredible role throughout the whole creative process. I don't think so much so on the writing front. I mean, Heather is very good at what she does. She understands it. We didn't use AI to write for us in any shape or form, but certainly in the creative aspects of the book, the photography and the editing parts of the photography, and in the cleanup. And then, of course, in the cover itself, like I said, it was AI inspired. So I I think AI played the right way. I kind of like the term co-pilot, not because Microsoft created it. I like it because it was my co-pilot through the whole process. Not always that tool. Like you hear me using tools like Lightroom and Photoshop and Adobe suite of tools and Dolly and OpenAI. These are all tools that are available to everybody. They're not just because John Kahan worked for Microsoft. It's applying it at the right parts of the process and not taking away from what you do, but enhancing it.
Yeah. Well, Heather, I know that this was kind of your first rodeo as an author. John, you've done this several times before. What surprised, either of you about the publishing journey this go around?
I was I was kind of surprised at how important actually getting that cover was. I mean, it was the first step, which I didn't realize that that's how things worked. And I thought I was, anxious to kind of get to the stuff that I had written, the inside. But I realized over the course of that it was so important to kind of nail down that cover because it really kind of set the tone and the vision for how the rest of the book was going to flow. And so that was kind of a neat learning experience, actually. It was the first step of the process and it was quite iterative. And it just kind of took some of these, these words that we, in my vision where I wanted the book to be playful and I wanted it to, speak to the children of ages from, babies up through elementary school. And I really wanted it to kind of, capture that, just that heartfelt kind of, parent-child connection and whatever. So, but, it's one thing to kind of have those thoughts, but then for it to be able to come together in an illustration, basically, that then kind of sets the tone for the rest of the book. I mean, that was really a kind of a cool discovery that, just I had no expectations for. And it just turned out to be really cool. And that was actually, I think, maybe the most fun part of the process in a way, because it was right in the beginning and it was, it just was, it kind of really got the energy going.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. Like, I think it's also the part you just take for granted.
Yeah.
You're like, oh yeah, it'll have a cover.
Yeah.
And I never realized it. I think also the part that I think I would call it more delight than surprise to see it come alive across all these publishing sites. Like when you search for your name and you're like, oh my God, like this thing shows up. And the words are beautiful. Like the copy that was written out of our words to, market it, to communicate it. They're beautiful. I mean, they're not about selling something, but they're about inspiring and a message. And I don't know, it just touches me, and I hope it touches everyone. It touches children and parents and grandparents. We want to make sure that we leave something for the next generation, and that all of these years and years of travel and enjoyment that we can pass on to everyone. And I think this does that. In fact, I know it does that. And I hope everyone gets a copy of it. It's not super expensive, which is part of the process. I had like 100 more pictures I could have done.
Yeah.
And I think someday I'll probably convince Heather, okay, let's do it again. At least I hope so. But right now I hope everybody gets a copy of it. It's simple. It adds something to the world, and it gives back, which is nice. I mean, 100% of the proceeds go to as Heather indicated, the Aaron Matthews SIDS Research Fund Guild of Seattle Children's Hospital and the World Wildlife Fund. And we underwrote the whole thing, and we're proud of doing that. And we feel like, every dollar matters in the world to research and to protecting the world the way it is today for the next generation. So this is our legacy.
With a process that involves so much heart and detail going into every single phase, how did you know when the book was officially ready to go out into the world?
Oh God, I think we knew we wanted it done along the way. But I don't know. That's a good question. When did we
describe? I think it's just a feeling. I think it's just, I remember just kind of staring at the final, what turned out to be sort of the final iteration and just looking for like, okay, is there anything else? Is there anything else that needs to change? And there was nothing else. I had no other thoughts about it. It just felt right. It's really more of a feeling, I think, than kind of any sort of prescriptive thing. I don't know. We were just ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think when the book arrived, I remember I was away and the physical book arrived. I mean, just the sheer delightment Heather had. And I was like, oh, well, put it on video. Let's look at it. I mean, it's something, books, they're incredible when you put it in your hand and you feel it. Like, I'm not a big fan of online reading. I prefer to feel and to touch, especially my photography. I mean, it's, who's going to look at that online? You want to look at that in a book, but to feel it, I think it's just something special. And to watch, as children pick it up. Heather, we donated a bunch to a school that's near here, and they asked her to come and read. And I know, because I've seen it in my other books, how much it's going to mean for children to pick it up, and they're going to read it over and over and over and over again. And that's just, there's nothing like that, to watch a child, delve into it and want to see it again and again and again. That's a great feeling. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, I love hearing you guys talk about your work and the process. You can just hear in your voice. I mean, you both are so insightful and knowledgeable. What advice would you give to someone who's in your shoes, maybe considering publishing their own book as well?
Do it. Like, honestly, it's really hard to put yourself out. Even I'm an extrovert more than Heather is by far. But it's difficult. I get that, oh, what are people going to think of me and the work that I have? How is it going to stand up against
not good enough?
It's not good enough. But the reality is everybody has something to give to this world. And personally, I think it's a shame that people don't take the time to do it. I've seen it in, Heather's dad created something for the family. My mother did something for the family that was just, their things, cookbooks and their life story, etc. I think it's kind of a shame that happens towards the end of people's lives. I think you got to do that early in life and be able to give back along the way. And everybody has a message. And I think you just do it. I mean, there's no such thing as failure in this instance. There really isn't. If you inspire one person to do something a little differently, or you leave a message that's important for one person, that's worth every element.
We've inspired our kids and we've inspired our grandkids, and I think, they're kind of, when we mentioned to them that we were, doing this, they're like, of course you are. So, hopefully that kind of just can do it sort of attitude. Like, if you have an idea, just go for it,
Yeah.
That's really, something that we hope we've left behind, or we are leaving behind, I guess I should
Yes,
say,
exactly.
for our children and our grandchildren. And then, and just our friends too. I mean, I have friends who have said, well, I've always had an idea, about, writing a book, but just do it. Take that first step. It's because, when you have, a company like Palmetto, I mean, they will guide you through it. So you don't know what you don't know, but other people know what they know. So you just, you let them take you through it. And it's the most delightful journey. And
I could add the last piece Heather said. It's a delightful journey. In the end of the day, it can be maddening at times because you want to get it done, or you can't, you're stuck on a creative idea or a word. It's a hell of a lot of fun when you're all done. And it just feels incredible when you see this thing come alive. And, there's your book on Barnes & Noble and Amazon and on your website. And there's the physical book. And that's just an incredible feeling. I mean, for me personally, I look at it and I'm like, okay, I left another piece. And it's not in a box somewhere that nobody will ever look at, and it's not on a server somewhere that nobody will ever find. It's actually something in the ecosystem that we live and breathe every day. And it sends a special message. And I think that's a lot of fun. and something that you'll be self-satisfied with. I don't think there's any downside in this process, none. The only downside is not doing it, which is just a shame.
That's kind of our mantra
Yeah,
in life.
yeah, exactly. It is. It's like, we always say, like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Well, you know what? You only have one life, so everything's a once in a lifetime
Mhm.
opportunity.